Welcome everyone. Really happy to have you on this exciting topic. I think that everybody is really at the forefront or like on top of their minds. That's not just what we think, but actually also when we did a survey with insights professionals, 48% of the surveyed people said that this was really top of mind AI adoption at their companies. I mean, this was specifically about for agencies, but I mean, for brand side researchers, it's very similar. Yeah, it is very important. I've also shared the report as a link just in case you want to also sift through that. There's also a lot of other trends, of course, and a lot of detail around AI. Of course, in today's session, we have here 3 experts with us, just talking about this survey, but actually some real world input from how agencies are using AI in their workflow and how it's transforming their businesses. Myself, I'm Pascal, I'm co-founder at Caplina. I work a lot, of course, with AI since for quite a few years now, and trying to make really the most out of AI to deliver exciting insights. Today I have Susanna with me. Susanna, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks a lot, Pascal. Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Susanna De Luca. I am a director at Ipsos Doxa, where I am specialized in social listening and analysis of unstructured data. My background is in traditional research. Almost 15 years ago, I've been moved to the online conversation analysis, so to the social listening. Recently, I launched the Vox, which is a methodological approach that combines AI with text analytics, transforming the spontaneous feedback into strategic insights, not only from the social media, but especially focused on the generical client's feedback that you can collect from any touch point like mail, social care, phone call, customer support, etc.
Well, thanks for the introduction, Susanna. Rafa, you want to go next?
Hi everyone, thanks for having me here. I'm Rafael Conde. I am a director at Lemonize in Mexico, which is a quantitative division of the Riva group. I've been working in market research for about 15 years in different industries like CPG, like financial services and automotive, pharma, etc. And over the last few years, my main focus has been on integrating the AI and automation into the research workflow. So it's not only from a technology or very tech perspective, but most from an adoption and operating model standpoint, So happy to be here again. I hope my insights are good, okay, for you.
They will be happy to have you, Rafa. Gerd?
Gerd Beidernikl. I'm founder and managing director of vieconsult. We are a quite small but highly specialized organizational research company located in Vienna, Austria. We are doing large-scale employee surveys for mostly European companies, rolling them out on a global level. I'm doing this now since more than 20 years with a background of traditional social researcher and organizational developer. So I'm a little bit joining, I guess, from a different perspective than my market research colleagues, but I'm even more excited to contribute that perspective.
So very happy to have you. So we have the full picture here, big corporate market research, Susanna, a big firm. We have more of the employee angle with Gerd and of course also more the middle and innovation side from Rafa. So really excited to have this.
Yes, I just forgot to
mix
say
here.
that I'm based in Italy.
Yes, and I'm based in Zurich. Yeah, that concludes the introductions. Now I want to go ahead and launch a poll that we have in our chat. We'll be asking a few questions in there as well. So the poll is about really where you are in your adoption with AI. I'm launching it now, so take your time to respond, and please also submit your questions that you have to the speakers in the Q&A. Best would be to address it to really somebody, so either to Gerd, to Susanna, or to Rafa, or if you want also to me directly, so I can direct then the question. And if it's for everyone, then just keep it open, but We should have time for at least a few questions in the end that you can ask these experts. Yeah, and to get things started, I really want to first kick things off with looking at the first AI use case and asking you, Gerd, when did you first start adopting AI in your work, and what was your first real use case?
I think, Pascal, I never told you that actually I've been, I guess, one of the earliest clients of Caplena to some degree, because I think right after you started the company, I was already visiting your first, let's say, offers to clients. But honestly spoken, I don't know why we did not really use it that time. But since 2, 3, 4 years, something like this, we became literally heavy users of Caplena and all of its features. Our first use case, honestly spoken, is the only use case we are having. We are doing large-scale employee surveys, and we are analyzing employee feedback with Caplena. So what we are doing is we are questioning hundreds and thousands of people, how are you with your workplace and the company you're working for? We're using quite a lot of open comments in these surveys to dig in more deeply into the statistical data, to ask questions about, tell us stories about your workplace and similar use cases. And we're analyzing all of these open comments with Caplena. So this is the one and only use case I can offer, but we are very happy with what we are doing.
Okay, what about you, Rafa?
Well, actually, it was not like a specific case. It was more like to solve our bottlenecks in the operational model, because, we are, I'm not going to say a small company, but a medium company that we are always thinking into be a big competitor for example, Ipsos like Susanna and Conde in Mexico, which are the biggest ones, the global ones. And so what we were thinking is to transform our mindset in terms of pressure and see always for speed, for consistency in our deliverables to our clients. So it was more like into this type of operational necessity, So we see AI as a tool, not for replacing people, but to distribute the responsibilities among our employees.
What about you, Susanna?
We like to define our story as a sort of love story. It's not the first time we use this term, because when I discovered you, it was 2021. Since I am a social listener here, I was quite familiar with unstructured data, since on the web you find mainly only unstructured data, text, but also images, videos, reels. It was 10 years ago when a client of us asked us to whether we were able to analyze not only social media. They wanted us to collect the reviews on their stores, but also they gave us lots of feedbacks they had in home, belonging from phone calls, emails, chat, messenger, social care, complaints, and they asked us, since you are able to analyze unstructured data on the web, would you be able to analyze also those different touch points, sources. So we started specializing in text analytics, but at that time we couldn't find any proper solution. AI machine learning tools for text analytics already existed, but they were not so mature. So we used other approaches like rule-based, linguistic or rule-based approaches. When we finally met Caplena, we continued to test other possibilities, but we were never satisfied, because what we wanted to do is not just to press a button and get the classification of the unstructured data, but to run a human-in-the-loop approach. So this is why we used Caplena, and it really represents a turning point for us with this approach and our box product.
Interesting. And obviously AI has evolved quite a lot over the years. The question goes towards Gerd first. What's been sort of an unexpected benefit, and what has been a drawback you initially hadn't considered, maybe?
Mostly we experience benefits. So if you ask me, is there any major drawback that I experience, I have to disappoint you. No, there is no real drawback I would like to mention, but there have been a lot of surprises. Because if you familiarize yourself with a new technology, if you adapt your processes according to possibilities a tool is offering, you have a steep learning curve, and I think we had this steep learning curve. I think there are two surprises that I believe are worthwhile mentioning. First one, my assumption at the beginning was using Kaplana, the main benefit will be more volume with the same headcount. This is true to some regard due to automatization, but what is a bigger benefit for us than more volume is to have more time to go more deeply into the data. So what I expected was volume. What I got is depth and insights. And this, honestly spoken, surprised me to some degree, and a lot of my colleagues internally, because we got something that we did not count on. We more thought it from an automatization kind of standpoint, but it really helps us to understand our kind of data more deeply and allows more deep conversations with our clients. And I think the second thing that was a tremendous surprise for me, I will be completely blunt and straightforward. At the beginning, I thought as an agency, I have to hide Kaplana. I thought it's not strategically a benefit to mention we are using some third-party AI tool, something like this. How would this affect our image as an agency providing services to a client? But in fact, it turned out exactly the other way. And I'm really feeling, Susanna, what you said before, to keep the human in the loop, to not just have an AI tool, but a quality-proven, quality-assured AI tool. And so to say, Kaplana became something we are proud to tell we are working with Kaplana. It's nothing we need to hide, nothing that makes us look incompetent. It's exactly the other way around. If a good agency and consultant is using a good tool to make him or her more efficient, I think it's an add-on quality aspect that a lot of clients are favoring, because we're helping them to solve a problem, and this is the quality problem within AI. There are so many tools, but they are always a black box, and Kaplana is less of a black box. And I think this was a big surprise that we can proud of to tell others we are working with Kaplana.
I was very happy to hear what.
First of all, I definitely agree with Gerd words. My surprise, what was the most unexpected benefit for me is I want to put it on a more methodological point of view. My background is, yes, I told you, from the traditional research. I define myself more as a methodology than a researcher, to finally hybridize qualitative and quantitative approaches. This has been a dream for researchers, for methodologies over time. I always been deeply interested in integrating the two methods, but the two methods mostly lived in a parallel world, both in the academic world or in the agency world, without scale or scale without depth. So now I can say that with this approach, with this tool like Kaplana, the barrier are finally dissolving, and I can really add the quality to the quantity for my clients. In our Vox approach, which is also the unexpected result, is that we could create a product to sell to the client. A step further, because we qualify the verbatims, the unstructured data, creating a taxonomy with the topics, with the sentiment, interacting with the algorithm, fine-tuning the algorithm with the human in the loop process. But that, what we do is to connect the quality to the quantity and close the loop again, is that we can measure the impact of each topic that we find as a classification towards the main KPI. So that can be, for example, an NPS or a customer satisfaction score. In that way, the qualitative content that we find through the analysis, through the text analytics with Kaplana, doesn't just illustrate the results, but they explain the performance. So for me, this is a methodological unexpected result that we got. It was a dream that now it becomes reality. So quality at a scale.
Interesting, but I imagine also that it required some convincing internally because, as you mentioned, sort of you came from 10 years ago where it was more like manually combing through the data and was difficult, and then AI came, but even in today's sort of industry surveys, we still see quite a big difference in skepticism or AI adoption in companies, and I think Europe is probably also there quite prevalent. How did you bridge the gap and convince other team members, and what major evolution changes did you see in roles?
Are you asking me, Pascal?
Yeah.
Yes, it was quite an hard job at the beginning because the skepticism were very frequent. Honestly, in many organizations still there are some skepticisms becoming lower, but sometimes there are still. It can be surprising, but currently manual coding is still very, very common in some companies. So among the NPS or CSAT, customer experience programs, you often see hundreds of codes, lots of hierarchical levels. So you see these taxonomies made by manual coders, very, very fragmented, very, very detailed. And this is something that creates an illusion for the client, for the companies, to take everything under control, and the illusions that the manual coders are more accurate than a machine, than an algorithm. But the effort, first of all, is huge. Also, this type of approach is not enable the stakeholders in the company to share the results, share 100 codes taxonomy with the others. When we moved to an AI-based categorization, we have asked to our clients to compact and to structure more the information. So here there were the skepticism that was at two levels. First of all, they were afraid to lose granularity. Secondly, they were afraid to lose accuracy. But it's proven that especially if you have big number of verbatims of structured data to be analyzed, the manual codes, the manual coding towards a good supervised machine learning codes is losing, because with the AI-based approach and where you have the human in the loop again, that is so humans that are training the algorithm, so they are fine-tuning the algorithm, you have more accurate, more stable, less subjectivity into coding, because usually when you code manual code you have different types of coders, so different minds, different personality, different perceptions. And so in the end, what was the reason why we bypassed the skepticism from our client was not saving in time or a saving in cost. Is not that. Yes, for sure, we cut the time in a tremendous way compared to the manual coding, but it was the accuracy, and it was the scalability. Once you run the first wave, in a couple of seconds you can run all the other waves, so you spend many time for the first wave, for the setup, and then if you have a monitoring, you can really scale the approach, so you have accuracy, efficiency, lots of advantages. In the end, yes, we managed to handle the skepticism.
Consistency, Susanna, I would add from my side. When I'm listening to you, for us, this consistency is amazing. You do not have to train 20 students to do something as a coder in a similar way. It comes out of the box.
Yes, and the machine will be never tired, never bored, never in a bad mood in one day.
Ill. Don't forget, never ill.
Yes.
Yeah, and Rafa, you also mentioned that sort of AI is, you see AI as sort of supporting the work, but you also mentioned this human in the loop, or this people being a key factor to truly making sense of the result. Can you expand a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. I think, and just complementing what Susanna and Gerd are saying, is like AI at the very first, it was like, it plays on both sides, like in your ally or in your enemy, because sometimes people didn't know what to expect from AI, and maybe we still don't, in terms of, for example, in this particular case with Capnena, in terms of text analytics. Because you do have your own code books, code frames, like you have been working through history with your client, with your partners and people in general, but they are still have to be reviewed. And so the way AI is helping us to supporting our work is, I see it in three different ways. Like AI detect the patterns into the information, so it makes easier for the analyst to go into the background that they have and start analyzing from there. Again, as Susanna, I think it's a very important word here in this webinar, the human in the loop. Just the technology, just the AI, but don't forget the humans, because at least in what I've heard is our standard. People is going to be always there. So the other way is to process the data. Of course, Kaplana in this particular case help us to do the work easier without complaining, without being tired, without being annoyed, without being worried and things like that humans do. But when we are ready to start analyzing the things, again, we are ready, we have the information, and we add another layer. Not only we know the context, but we know the category, we know the client, we know the customers. So I think the AI summarizes correctly. I think they do a good work in this case, but then the humans need to translate that information into what the client needs. Our key difference, I think, it's not necessarily to get a good insight equals the summary, because insight needs a sort of interpretation, a sort of judgment, a sort of business relevance, which I think it's the added value that we give as an agency. Because tool can process the data, but people decide what matters.
This ties also in nicely to the next question that is also about sort of client and how we talk about AI. I mean, clients expect agencies to be really at the forefront of innovation, and I think you always have been. At the same time, some expect AI kind of more to be on the cost reduction side. It's expected to reduce costs and timelines, but there is then obviously concern, I think, about the quality of the work. How are you addressing these expectations around costs and timelines and quality when discussing AI with clients?
Yes, I think quality is the most important factor in that shift the mind of our client, and is also crucial when we talk about machine learning and text analytics. As I told before, I'm stressing the quality point with my client, not only the costs or the time immediacy of the process. I think that there's always an implicit fear from the client. Is the automatization gonna bring a lose in deep insights? Will it be too standardized? Will it be too superficial or less rigorous? So our answer in this case about quality is very clear. AI doesn't replace the experts. Doesn't replace us, it doesn't replace the expertise, but it amplifies the expertise. So I feel augmented as a researcher. I feel not deprived by the AI, but I feel augmented because now I can reach a level of information that I would have never reached before. I can connect qualitative and quantitative. I can analyze the whole data set instead of doing a sample. So it's really enriching me and augment our expertise. But the expert is still there because we have 3 points, I think, that are linked to the quality. The first one is the training of the model. You already have an incredible good algorithm itself. So even if on an unsupervised phase, I think Aplena is able to detect in a very good way some items. But then if we are selling a project, a box project to one of our clients, what we want to do is to train further the algorithm in order to make the algorithm, to shape the algorithm on the base of our clients' needs. We used to interact with the client during this process. So we do a first draft of the taxonomy, we collect feedbacks from the clients, we see together what is falling into a category or into another. What I like to say is that the taxonomy we create has to tell a story. It has to tell the story which is behind the open ends or the feedbacks. The second point that is linked to the quality is the supervision, because everything is supervised, everything is put on a test, everything is reviewed, the edge cases are reviewed. Sometimes when we run the worldwide analysis, for example an NPS worldwide analysis, the client of us asked us, how do you ensure that the nuances, the regional nuances are taken into consideration? So do you have different algorithms for Japanese feedbacks or for Spanish? This is our task during the training, during the supervision. And the third one, we said before, also Gerd and Rafa told, is interpretation. This is something that cannot be left to a machine. So it's the expert that interpret the data and the insight that we have created through all this process. So again, I want to say that AI in this case increase quality, gives us possibility that we wouldn't have ever had otherwise.
Rafa, how do you see that?
Yeah, from our perspective, it's very similar to Susanna. Regarding costs, I think there isn't something that there is a variable that we are not actually considering, because I think we are not in the exact point. But instead of that, we do focus into clarity, into quality, and the speed of decision, because I think it's something that AI with the team. They empower, they augment our potential as humans to be better for our client's perspective. Another thing is that right now tools are very accessible. And of course, they need some expertise in interpretation to create a real differentiator among our clients. One curious thing that I have been listening in different scenarios is, as an agency, clients ask us to do something different, to do something faster, to do something better. And sometimes it's kind of hard when we need to explore and we need to iterate with the different tools, because it's not like I'm gonna do this with this platform and I'm gonna do this with this other and I'm gonna do with the another. So it's hard for us to work into different ways in terms of to do trial with the different platforms and not be like embedded into our system. We need to start iterating with the different options, and sometimes clients feel uncomfortable with that because they don't feel secure, and it's fully understandable that they don't want to do that step into the new things that we observe as an agency, no? So yeah, we're always trying to do the best in terms of timelines, which is something that, yes, we are concerned about it, and I think AI give us that, but without losing the control, the quality in our investigations. Just to have in mind that AI is gonna accelerate our processes. Yeah, I'm sorry to be very repetitive on this, but trust, I think it's always from the human expertise.
Say that enough. Gerd, what do you think about it?
I can completely relate to what the two of you just said, and I really like the term augmented working, like Susanna, you called it, and Rafa, you referred to it too. I call it usually we got rid of the monkey work and freed the people that are working in my company actually for the kind of work they studied for and they love to do. Dive into the data, make hypotheses, make assumptions, drawing conclusions, doing consulting stuff. Nobody likes coding data. It's good for some time to do it, to learn it, but actually I think Kaplena is freeing the agenda of my team for those things they really are living for, to find ways of improving workplaces and finding evidence of what could be done better to make the better workplace, how we call it on our mission statement. So is there an expectation to be faster? Yes, nobody likes to wait. I think these days you close a survey and there is an expectation a couple of hours later or minutes later there is a first insight. Is there an expectation to become cheaper? Yes, to some degree, but different than maybe you meant your question. I think currently in times of maybe economical turbulence, there is always the question, what can we do with the price? But it's not because we are using AI. And I experience there is even some upselling potential and even the willingness to pay good money for a good quality tool if people trust the tool. So I would even say in earlier times with human manual coding, it was more like how many people do you need on an hourly base to code 100,000 questions? Now, this work is done but there are a lot of new features offered, quality, consistency, online dashboards, possibilities to blend in qualitative and quantitative data. All of this was not existing. So my experience is we can even charge more money actually for the same kind of work, but the client gets much more out of it, more flexibility and the possibility to interact with the data. So we're making completely positive experience with it, even on the business side.
Cool to hear. I think we already addressed some parts around the quality, but if anybody has still something to say there, how do you address the client concern around quality? I think Susanna already expanded on that. If you mentioned here also the trust that it is core, I think that's same for you, Gerd, I guess.
Completely, it's transparency. We partly even show the client what we are doing and how we do it. And I think, Susanna, you referred to it, this having the possibility to build across multiple projects your own, let's say, trademark catalog of how we are coding. And this know-how that is built through the LLM system, project after project, and having the possibility to do the same quality of coding in the next project. And we built on the projects we did before. This was not possible before. And I think it even opens up the possibility to not just ease a concern of quality, but show what was never possible before and open up the perspective of clients that it's not the quality that is decreasing, but it's rather a universe of new options that is opening up.
Yes, I fully agree. And I would also add, in terms of quality, another soft impact that is the tool like Plena leads to, for the client perspective. They are giving dignity to a real value to the open ends. They spend money with MPS programs. That's good. Definitely, you have to monitor your customer experience or your MPS on all your stores, retail, your agency, whatever. But then very often the open end are either manually coded, and we said that this is inconsistent, imprecise, lots of codes, etc. Most of the time forgot or roughly analyzed only in a small sample or only just to give some words to this open end. In this way, the quality of their MPS program or the CSAT program really really has a boost, an incredible boost, because when you have two MPS that are the same in two different markets or two different regions or two different stores, and okay, they are equal, okay, that's fair enough. But then if you go under and you really are able to deeply explore the feedbacks with their emotions, with their dynamics, with their fears, with their enthusiasm, with whatever we find through a machine learning text analytics approach on the open end, you are really explaining that on a base of the same MPS, the under baseline can be very, very different, and maybe 1 or 3 years later, these MPS are shifting, and you are not expecting, because you can also detect some weak signals, you can also detect trends, you can also some potential crises. And let me also put another point, which is the shareable. The results, the analysis of the open end made in this way and not in the old way, the traditional way, becomes shareable because you have a compact taxonomy, probably on the dashboard. Plena is a great dashboard, or you move on your Power BI dashboard, you create whatever you want, and you democratize, you share, you create culture of a data-driven company. And I know clients, our very first clients 10 years ago, the CEO, they told us that in the night on the sofa liked to scroll the dashboard and to read the feedback from their client. This is the only moment, maybe the higher you are in the structure of the company, the far you are from the real voice of your clients. So this is a way to be closer to the real voice of your clients, and it's structured. You can find it in topics, sentiments, and etc. So this is quality for me.
And just to go a little bit deeper into that, Susanna, on the shareable thing, one that always happened when you were presenting results, it was like you had this net information or the topics, and the client said, okay, but what was exactly what they said? And you have the possibility in the in that precisely moment, just click it, and you have the verbatim. And you have who said the age, the gender, the socioeconomic level, whatever. This granularity that give us Kaplana, it's really good for the clients. So they trust in the information. There is not something or is this black box behind, and it's completely transparent for the clients.
I've heard a lot about sort of AI augmenting your work. I think sort of kind of in the community debated at the moment. AI augmenting, is it like an exoskeleton or is it a coworker for you? What do you think? Maybe Rafa, you can start. Is it exoskeleton or is it a coworker?
I think it's both. It depends on how are you going to use it and in what type of project maybe. When I say it like a co-work is because it doesn't matter how expert you are in terms of market research. I'm gonna put an example. We decided to go with a people who was just recent graduates, and they start learning because the AI and the technology is something natural for them. So they started working and they have the possibility to learn to code. They didn't have to be an expert, but they have criteria, they have their own common sense. So they started working with that as a coworker, and maybe I think it's the highest usage that we are giving it. And again, because we don't want to let the AI or the technology to do the job, but to be always supervised by a human, you know?
To answer your question, Pascal, I would say a co-worker when it comes to the coding part. The one co-worker that never gets tired, is always motivated, never gets ill and never takes vacation. But in all other things, from the insights chat to the dashboard, I would say the exoskeleton, because it makes a good researcher a better researcher. It does not, you still need to have skills and context and industry know-how to really get most out of the data that is in front of you. But if you're good in what you're doing, it can amplify your greatness. And therefore, I think exoskeleton, I like this term. Yeah.
Here, I think it's time also to give some room for questions from the audience. We have one from Anastasia. I think it fits nicely for you, Susanna. Do you have an experience implementing Kaplana for tracking studies for brand awareness questions? We consider moving our tracker, but are cautious of brand historics, so specifically about brand tracking.
Yes, sure. There has to be an open end to analyze. So we have analyzed, yes, for many different use cases, the open ends from brand tracking, from store experience, from purchase experience. We also did run many internal climate analyses. So yes, whatever there's an open end in a questionnaire, that is, then we should open a very big section on how to write the open end in the questionnaire in order to let us analyze very well. Anyway, in order to do it, yes, if there's an open end, yes, definitely.
Thank you. I think I want to transition now more to the agency operating model to think about sort of more on a high level. The agency operating model is very much tied to the methodologies agencies create. Susanna, you also emphasized this, that you create, use, and apply. When preparing this webinar, you mentioned that methodology and operating models evolve together. Can you describe how this evolution looks like for your agency? Hey, Rafa, you want to start?
It hasn't been easy to adopt anything, not only technology is hard. I think there's something that we commented a few moments ago. But what we have been doing is trying to start with pilot, with small things, and when they are working, then we move forward and try to embed into the different methodologies, the different products, because it's not the one thing. Capgemini doesn't work in only one type of project. It works for open-ended for sure, but we apply it in different situations and different methodologies. So it has certainly helped us to evolve, because we want to be seen more as a technology, as an vanguard agency, and to have the different things and the best models, in this case the AI platforms, to be better positioned to leverage our knowledge.
Susanna, you want to comment on that as well?
I fully agree with Rafa. Yes, for me it's always not only a matter of technology, because the technology now is able to give us a sort of infrastructure, let's say like that. But what is really gives us the direction is the methodology. So for me, it's always a matter of methodology.
I think moving on for the final question before we take more from the Q&A, I think more of an outlook up in next year or 2026 already. The age of AI, does a researcher really look like? Do you think there will be a major evolution between the researcher of today and researcher of the future? What skills will become less important and which ones will be emphasized? Gerd, maybe you want to start.
My picture, the metaphor that I'm using in my own team, I always say the tools will change and most probably AI will develop new models, new LLMs, whatever it might be. But our role is to being, like in a museum, the curators of these tools, of the quality. So human in the loop is maybe the word of the webinar. I'm using it now too. I think our role is to ensure that the data we get is analyzed in the best quality way by the most efficient tools available based on a methodology that makes sense. And this process is what I call, we are the curators of what is happening, ensuring quality, putting into the spotlight what might be worthwhile for the client to see and to listen to help the client to understand what he or she is seeing in the data. But as I said before, we are not doing the monkey jobs anymore. And I'm really happy about that.
Yes, I'm happy too, definitely. And this question, yes, is very crucial in this moment. Everyone is asking, we are asking as researchers, what will be our future, our way of working will be changed by the AI. And I think that we are only at the very beginning of what the AI can do in terms of functionalities, in terms of supports for us in the research. What I really believe is that the researchers will not take advantages in a short time only because they are using AI. We are using AI for sure. What is different, what will make the difference for us is how we think about AI, how we supervise AI. I like a lot, I will use myself instead your curator, museum curator metaphor. I like it a lot. So yes, it will depend on how we will use, how we will curate, how we will supervise, how we translate all the patterns in meaning, and the meaning, the real meaning, the real interpretation is only in our human mind. So I think that the AI, in other words, is not creating less human researchers, but again is the opposite. We are implementing a synergy with the machine that is giving us some powers that we didn't have before, and also stimulating our interpretation. So the final interpretation is from our mind. When I go to the client and comment some results of our research, is my mind, is my relation, is my empathy with the client that is driven the real outcome of the research. But with all the process I've been able to run with an AI support with different tools like Aplena and others, my mind is overstimulated. I mean, my interpretations, my meanings can be can be higher, can be more precise, can be more effective now. So the way we use and the way we think at AI will make the difference for us as researchers.
From my perspective, I think AI will create a better future researchers, but they have to be aware in terms of, I think, as Susanna and Gerd have mentioned, the interpretation, I think, is going to be something key. The business understanding for sure, and to be able to have this critical thinking, to be an observer, to ask, to not be afraid to ask, clarify. Because I think AI, I don't know where AI is going to take us, to be honest, tomorrow. I'm not even saying in 5 years. But I think that those things that I mentioned, it's key for, actually, I don't know if only for researchers, but for the world. To have those human values or understanding, I think is what's going to create a differentiator into this world, which is going to be so technological.
Yeah, crazy to think about. 5 years is now, it seems like so far in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, totally.
We're not going to try to predict so far ahead, but yeah, I mean, thank you so much for all your inputs, and you almost out of time. I think we could go on forever. I think all of us are in continuous transition or like evolution due to this technological shifts, and I think it's really important just to stay on top, and as you all said, to keep the trust. I mean, whenever we are experimenting, we must think about the methodologies behind it. We must understand what's happening to not lose the trust of the clients and the decision makers in the end. So yeah, with that, I would like to thank you all, you the speakers and the audience for the questions. I think it was very interesting. Again, I want to highlight the report that I shared about the future of AI insights. I think in the poll it became also quite clear that currently everybody is more moved away, or most people moved away already from the experimenting and exploring phase towards really integrating, which I think is the general state of the industry. But I think it never ends, right? You always go in a loop. You integrate, you explore, you experiment, you integrate. It will never stop. And I think that's also what's exciting about technology. It moves, and yeah, we are maybe the creators in a museum, but we are not stuck in a museum. We are in an active space where the technology is evolving, everything is evolving, but we of course are the ones that make sense of the data. So thank you all, and have a nice remaining evening.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
You too.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.